3-minute rounds in the light heavyweight decision, and is brought to you by Zen Garden Wellness and is the co-main event of the evening. Introducing the 3 men in the cage, starting with the blue corner. He comes to us today wearing black shorts trimmed in red. Standing 6 feet tall, official weight 205.6 pounds. He is an orthodox fighter representing Run to Danger and Rice Brothers Jiu-Jitsu. He brings an undefeated record to the cage with 1 win and 0 losses, fighting out of Redding, California. Please welcome Eddy, the Honored One, Herrera. And his opponent across the cage, fighting out of the red corner. He comes to us today wearing black shorts trimmed in gray. Standing 6 feet 1 inch tall, official weight 205.1 pounds. He is an orthodox fighter representing American Kickboxing Academy. He also brings an undefeated record to the cage with 2 wins and 0 losses. Both of those wins by way of KO, fighting out of Woodside, California, Nick Powerful Stemmet. Your 3rd man in the cage, Mr. Dave Sherman.
Well, both of these guys are interesting characters. Those walkouts felt a lot shorter. I'm not sure if it's just because they gave us so much to talk about. They're entertaining both inside and outside of the cage, and definitely 2 young men whose journey you're going to want to follow.
Touch of gloves, they both take the center.
So Stemmet says that in his last fight, he knocked him out in 20 seconds and pretty much wasted his whole day. So he's been working on not hitting people as hard.
Must be nice.
Yeah, definitely a nice problem to have. He said he's primarily a wrestler, but he likes to create his own martial arts and then master them. Eddy Herrera with some big shots of his own.
Uh-oh.
Little overzealous on that entry and gives Stemmet the opening to his back. But it's not the first time Herrera has been in deep waters in these fights, and he knew exactly what he was getting into tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Herrera's as tough as they come. Landing some big power shots to Stemmet underneath that guard with a single left lace in.
And as he mentioned in his mindset, Herrera kind of likes when people counts him out. So this is what he is looking for. He likes these tough challenges. He likes being the underdog. And Stemmet blasts through, big lift on the double, takes him back over his leg. Not 100% sure if that caused damage to the knee, but...
Oh, that was a very, very awkward way to fall for Herrera.
Brutal with the ground and pound is Stemmet.
But he's back to his feet. Like I said, Herrera's as tough as they come, man. Chunking them out from start to finish with a just gorilla coming at him in Stemmet, you know, but he's back on his feet. That in itself is no easy feat, you know.
Well, we are not surprised by the ruthlessness and relentlessness of Nick Stemmet. And I don't want to say surprised, but very impressed with the heart of Eddy Herrera. Definitely not looking to find a way out of this fight. And honestly impressed that he even took the challenge in the first place. Not saying that he can't win the fight, but Nick Stemmet is a very intimidating opponent for most. And I think that's just a testament to the confidence and the heart of Eddy Herrera, especially having fought just literally a month ago, not even.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Stemmet's one of those dudes that has trouble finding fights because people say no, you know, and that might be a good decision for a lot of those guys, but Herrera absolutely hopped on the opportunity as soon as he heard it, so shout out to him, you know, and he's fighting. You know, there's less than a minute left in this first round, but that is still a lot of time to have a dude like Nick Stemmet on top of you, raining down powerful shots.
Yes, certainly. And speaking on the heart of Eddy, just one more point I want to make. He said he wants to show that coming from a small town with limited resources isn't an excuse to stop working towards your goals. And he really wants to show everybody that he is working towards his goals and he is building that future for himself. And unfortunately, Nick Stemmet on the back, I think that choke may be in. Oh, beautiful job from Herrera here. Just staying composed. I mean, he's definitely finding himself in deep waters. He's finding himself in challenge after challenge, but he's surviving and he's showing he's got heart. And Nick Stemmet hasn't really seen the later rounds of a fight.
Yeah, this is going to be the first time he's seen the second round of a fight. So yeah, absolute heart from Herrera. Domination from Stemmet, but heart from Herrera, man. Every opportunity he got to let hard punches go, he was, you know. Fought out of tough positions. He even got taken down and then back up to his feet with one of the top wrestlers in the country, you know. So very, very impressed with the heart and skill also from Herrera. But with that said, still a very dominant round from Stemmet.
Yes, certainly. No question if we were to go to the judges on that one. You know, I mentioned earlier that a lot of these athletes are fighting smarter, not harder. They're training intelligently, you know, inside and outside of the cage. And I just want to mention Nick Stemmet, a Stanford graduate. You know, he has options both inside and outside of the cage, but he chose to quit his job to pursue MMA full-time. He said, I'm aware it's an incredibly poor life decision, especially as an amateur, but I have self-belief that overcomes any amount of doubt or external opinion. And we saw that in that first round domination from Nick Stemmet right there. Blake, what would have been your, you know, advice for Eddy Herrera in his corner had you been there?
I say just absolutely start letting the hands go. Let your hands go, man, because the more, right there, just like that, you know, and as I say that, he gets taken down. However, you got to let your hands go on such a high-level wrestler, because if you just play the defensive wrestling game against a guy like Stemmet, you're going to lose 10 times out of 10, you know. So you got to get to your game plan as opposed to just trying to stop the other person's game plan, you know. You have to get to your offense as he's doing, right? He's back up to his feet again. I'm super impressed with Herrera's heart and ability to get back to his feet with a wrestler like Stemmet on top of him.
Yeah, not many people would be able to build back up to their feet against Nick Stemmet. And this is very tiring for both guys. It's exhausting for Herrera, don't get me wrong. But Stemmet is also exerting a lot of energy and power in those big lifts, in those dumps, and the constant up-downs. And I think that coming into the, you know, the later part of this fight, we may be looking at who has the best conditioning. Should we make it that far, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, Herrera's locking up that half guard and trying to strike from the bottom, which is not a great idea. However, he's got to look, yep, just like that. He's got to look to dig underhooks to get back up as opposed to trying to strike from the bottom when he's being held down like that.
And again, I know that it's not always a compliment when we talk about heart, okay? It's not always what a fighter wants to hear. But he could have found a way out in that position. Many lesser fighters would have, but he chose to start wrestling back up, and he finds himself in a stronger position having done so. I was just about to mention I'm not a fan of, you know, locking the guard from bottom in any position, whether it's half guard, full guard. You know, you're almost conceding that bottom position, and, you know, you can land strikes from bottom as we're seeing, but the power is going to come from the top. So conceding that bottom position is definitely not ideal, and I'm just so impressed with Herrera and his grit and determination to not concede those positions or find a way out.
Yeah, that's a stellar point. You know, and as we're saying that, it's definitely very, very dominant for Stemmet as he passes to full mount and looks to slice that knee over the armpit and pin down the arm of Herrera. Oh, it might be setting up an arm bar.
Considers it, but
heavy ground and pound.
Happy to hunt that TKO finish is Nick Stemmet.
The ref looking closely in Dave Shirley.
This may be it. We have 30 seconds left. Heavy blows from Nick Stemmet, and Herrera does enough to survive.
Man, this dude is something else, you know. As we talk about the absolute beast that is Nick Stemmet, just a freak. But I tell you what, man, I'm impressed with Herrera to just never, ever give up and keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. And that's what you got to do. You know, you have to do that in order to give yourself a chance. Because if you even break kind of for a moment, that could be enough. You know, just that change in body language can be enough for a ref to stop it when you stop fighting back. And Herrera has not done that thus far. And
I just want to elaborate on that. The reason that Herrera is surviving these positions and the referee is letting it go, Dave Shirley is phenomenal at his job. Intelligently defending yourself is any time where you're trying to advance your position. I believe the referee could have potentially stopped it, but Herrera did a beautiful job of building to his knees, advancing his position, and thus was intelligently defending himself. Do I perhaps want to see him take another round of that much damage in his amateur career? No, but phenomenal heart on the side of Herrera, and very consistent domination from Nick Stemmet. We've seen it time and time again with him, and I think he's really coming out and doing what he said he was going to do. He said he didn't want to go too fast. He said he didn't want to get the finish too early, and he wanted to come out here and make it worth his time, and he's definitely getting the miles in against a very gritty and tough opponent in Eddy Herrera.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for these fighters as they enter into the third and final round.
Show of respect from both fighters. Give each other a little head nod and an air fist bump. How can you not respect one another after the first 2 rounds like that?
Well, an interesting and direct quote from Nick Stemmet. He said, I saw a picture of him. He looks kind of chubby, so I'm going to see how tired I can get him before finishing him. And that was an exhausting first 2 rounds for both guys, and it'll be very interesting to see if that pace can be maintained in this third, because I don't think that it's an easy night for finishing Herrera.
No, absolutely not. He's got him. This has tended to be kind of a theme for tonight, where he has that half guard kind of half locked in, and that's Stemmet will happily hang out here all night, So Herrera's got to look to clear that left leg of his to get back to his feet, because locking down a half guard from this position is not going to be advantageous for him in MMA.
I think the crowd have been a little spoiled tonight, Blake. We've had mostly finishes. We are on our 11th fight of the night. We've only had 2 decisions. That's 9 early finishes, and they're booing what has arguably been one of the most dominant fights on the card. But, it's going to be very impressive if Herrera weathers this storm and makes it out of the 3rd round. And I am genuinely so impressed with this kid. I know we keep saying it. Obviously, Stemmet, phenomenal performance, pure domination. I will give you another direct quote from him because he is ever the character. He says, I am like a jungle cat that hasn't eaten in days and finally laid its eyes on its prey. He said, I'm singularly focused on finishing my opponents at all time and have no consideration for my own health and well-being. But with that said, he's having a hard time finding that finish right here.
Any guy that compares himself to a jungle cat is someone that I don't want to fight. Yeah, just dominant performance thus far from Stemmet. Beautiful ground control. And, the crowd here is booing, but with all due respect, they're going to have to deal with it, because this has been a phenomenal showcase of ground and pound and transitioning, and that is the name of the game in MMA.
45 seconds left on this round, and Herrera able to still build back up to his feet. I don't think you guys back home realize just how impressive it is that he has not only been able to weather this storm, but he is still negating the offense of Nick Stemmet. He's building up to his feet against a very high-level wrestler, and he's giving good answers back, Blake. This is, like I say, he is weathering the storm very much so, and but I wouldn't say he's drowning.
Yeah, absolutely not. Getting up underneath once from a guy like Nick Stemmet is impressive, but he's done it time and time again throughout this fight. He hasn't had a whole lot of success with his offense.
Herrera actually tagged Nick Stemmet, looked to have maybe wobbled him for a second, couldn't tell if it was a slip or a shot, but Eddy Herrera is the first person to take Nick Stemmet all the way to the judges' scorecards. Blake, I don't think you can question the result, but I think we are very surprised that we have taken it there.
Oh, absolutely. This is, we can call it what it is. He was the biggest underdog of tonight by far, and he came in with a lot of people doubting him, and, obvious domination from Stemmet. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from him. Dominant performance, absolute beast. From start to finish, controlled the fight, dominated the fight. However, Eddy Herrera taking him the distance in itself is a feat.
Well, we're about to look at a replay, but I'm going to make requests for the matchmakers. I would love to see Eddy Herrera get a little bit of a more fair matchup. He's done nothing but fight absolute athletes. He's fought 2 collegiate footballers who were just physically, just came in with that athleticism, and he was able to go tit for tat with them, and now he's fighting. We've already listed the accolades of Nick Stemmet, so I'm so impressed with how he's testing himself at such a high level. And then, not to take away from Nick Stemmet, we see that beautiful double leg right there. Again, with the body lock, lowered it down, locked the hands around the glutes, was able to finish the double. Just pure display of dominant, relentless wrestling with vicious ground pound from Nick Stemmet. And he is going to seal the deal with the judges as we send it back to Derek.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 rounds of action in the light heavyweight division, this fight has gone to the judges' scorecards. Judge number 1 scores the fight 30-27. Judge number 2 scores the fight 30-27. Judge number 3 scores the fight 30-27. For your winner, by way of unanimous decision, fighting out of the red corner, Nick Powerful Stemmet.
Well, Nick Stemmet continues his dominating spree, advancing to 3-0, adding his first decision victory to his record. I mentioned he said his last fight was too short and he felt like he wasted his time spending all day here.